when I came to Kent, Ohio in 2007, I discovered a community that had massive animosity between town and gown that had gone back not just for the decades since the Kent State shootings, but long before that, that was the cause of the Kent State shootings. And that the generations before the shootings who had never really bonded with the university and the town, and the leadership afterwards that refused to do any kind of truth and reconciliation after the shootings, eventually and finally gave way to a ripe new generation that was excited about working together. And so finally, the downtown, which was the core of which was practically abandoned, full of abandoned storefronts, had very little in the way of community anchors, began to blossom into new growth as the government and the town council officials began to work with the new president at Kent State University and with local government elected officials and business people and community leaders and nonprofit organizers to revitalize the economic development in downtown Kent. And it wasn't just building a bunch of new buildings to get a tax base, it was also bringing people in to live there. So our community came alive in a holistic way, and we began to build a flourishing, complex ecosystem of people, places, and events going on downtown. Now, my church, Christ Episcopal Church, had been there for 175 years. And we had survived through every single development the town had gone through. And I said, this is a time now when we need to seize this energy and make it part of our ministry here as God's hands in the world. Because we all have seen how challenged parish churches are right now, trying to figure out the funding model, clergy that come and go, people who come to these churches who live way out in the suburbs and don't come as often on Sunday because they have to drive so far and it's so much work and they're so tired, and our middle class people who are all over scheduled. But now we find this convergence where people are moving back in closer and want to be closer to each other. They're tired of community that's all online with people all over the place where you're curating your happy face picture on Facebook, you know, where you've got your fake life on Facebook that you've created and you don't have any real friends, real hands to clasp, and where you are picking out only people who are just like you. Instead, now people are longing deep in their hearts to connect with their actual physical neighbors around them. And so we're finding more hyper-local connections coming in. Just on my street, which is in the same neighborhood as my church, we're finding a Facebook page dedicated to a single block of people who live close to each other. And people are willing now to meet people that they otherwise would not have gone out to meet. All kinds of people coming together. And I want to bring this energy into the church because what's coming in is a vast diversity of people with gifts, talents, skills, God-given spiritual gifts who can bring it all, meet each other, fertilize each other, and then bring it alive. We saw one of our members take advantage of this energy when Richard saw that there were musicians both inside and outside the church who could come together to provide a new kind of music for our worship, one that was completely indigenous to our neighborhood, where people came in and did music we could never have planned for. This is not music that we said, we need to have this kind of music to attract those kinds of people. We just got the music that came to us. And so we've had these tremendously successful Appalachian music masses, gospel blues mass, and the fabulous Broadway masses. And new people from the community are coming in. We're putting up old-fashioned communication things like flyers, as well as using social media in new ways to connect with the local community and bring them in and let them know that we're there. We have had visitors in our church now every single week since September 2012, without exception. And before that, we never had anybody coming in. Our church was invisible to the community, but now we're really deeply part of it. And I have taken a vow of stability to stay there. I'm the longest serving rector since 1991. No one has ever stayed more than 4 years. They always use the church for a stepping stone. But I want to stay with my wonderful, beloved people and see where they're going to go with what God is filling them with the energy of. And so I'm going to stay there for the long run, permanently, to provide continuity of spiritual leadership, but also to see this wonderful story that's unfolding a story that we don't know where it's going. It's going to be full of surprises because the Spirit is guiding the story, not us. And so I say, let 1,000 flowers bloom. Let 100 schools of thought contend.